I call this meeting this evening to order. Good evening and welcome to all of you to the Board of Education Teaching and Learning Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha for Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. We start out this evening with general business. First of all, Mr. Como, one of our committee members, is excused from the meeting tonight. Next up, Stacy, has the meeting been properly posted?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And then we have the opportunity for students to speak, our citizens to speak to us this evening, to the committee, if they have any concerns or would like to address any issues with us. So I think we have two this evening, Stacy.
Yes.
Okay. So if you could just please state your name and address.
Oh, it's a long
Before you
one.
start.
Okay. My name is Ellie McHenry, and I live at South 53 West 23733 Big Bend Road in Waukesha. Oh. Sorry, I just heard my name. I'm here today to address the issue of the information item on the agenda for the middle school instructional minutes. I know that every year when the test scores come out, we find ourselves analyzing what the scores mean and what we can do to improve them, and rightfully so. This year, there is a proposal to reduce the elective time and increase literacy and math time at the middle school level. The belief is that increasing literacy and math time will raise the test scores. This is based on the fact that some surrounding districts who do better on the tests have fewer electives and more time in literacy and math. But there is no proof that the increased time is the only reason for these districts to be doing better than we do. There might be other factors involved. Most of the districts cited as models for the increased time are much smaller than Waukesha. How many students in those districts receive free and reduced lunches? How many are English language learners? How many of them have special needs? All of those things should be factored in when making comparisons. What if the reason the scores are higher in those districts, or any other district for that matter, is something else? Perhaps the issue of the curriculum should be looked at. Does our curriculum align with the state tests? I am not in favor of teaching to the test, and I've been very vocal about that in the past. However, if these test scores are going to be held against us, then perhaps we need to kind of look at that issue. Perhaps we do need to take our curriculum and align it a little more closely to the state tests. I don't know about all of you, but I can remember taking final exams when I was in college, and every once in a while I'd be going, I don't remember this ever coming up in the class, and I wasn't a happy camper when that happened. So perhaps our students are facing that when they are trying to take these tests. There are lots of reasons why this could be happening in our district and not in other districts. I don't know if you looked at whether their curriculum was aligned or some of these other factors, but I think it is worth looking at multiple areas and not just focusing in on the one. Middle school students, it's their last opportunity to take an elective without a credit being attached to it. And I hate to see that taken away from them when the rest of their school careers are pretty cut and dried and rote. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Rath. I'm a French teacher and social studies teacher at Butler Middle School. My address is 8711 West Dallas Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53224. I'm here tonight to address the proposal regarding middle school level instructional minutes as well. We've all seen the test scores. We know that the test scores drop in middle school, and we all want our kids to do better. However, the plan to take minutes away from electives in order to increase the number of minutes spent on literacy and math instruction in 8th grade is not a viable or desirable solution. The plan is to decrease the number of electives available to 8th grade students from 5 semesters to 3 semesters. The reasoning behind it is that other area school districts offer their students only 3 semesters of electives in 8th grade, and all of their students outperform our students. However, minute allocation is only one factor of many that may affect test performance. In fact, there is no evidence given that minute allocation has anything to do with test performance. Correlation does not equal causation. In fact, our current middle school minute allocation seems to contradict the connection between minutes and test performance. For at least the past 7 years that I've been with the district, 6th and 7th grade students spend twice as much time in literacy than in any other class. Wouldn't we expect their test scores to rise significantly near the end of 6th and 7th grade? Instead, the opposite is true. Test scores drop despite the extra minutes devoted to literacy. Clearly, spending more time on a subject is not the answer. What research does say, however, is that students who learn a world language, participate in music class, and take career and tech ed classes achieve higher academically and are more college and career ready. Studies have specifically linked world language learning to increased test scores. In fact, a recent study by the University of Massachusetts showed that children who study a foreign language, even when the second language study takes time away from the study of mathematics, outperform students who do not study a foreign language and have more mathematical instruction during the school day. There is so much research on the academic benefits of world language learning, as well as music and other elective areas, that I don't have time to talk about it in my 3-minute allocation, so I will leave these articles for you to peruse on your own time. The bottom line is that electives boost achievement, so taking away elective minutes would have the opposite effect when we are looking at ways to augment test performance. In closing, I applaud the middle school principals for taking initiative to address our test scores. However, their proposed solution will not address the problem or help our students. Rather than rushing this proposal through, let's give equity of voice to parents, students, and teachers and look at all factors that affect test performance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the committee this evening? Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have our Bright Lights presentation from Randall STEM. They're going to be highlighting their successes with Playworks. So I invite Melissa Horn and her team up to share with us what's happening at Randall STEM.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Horn. I'm the principal at Randall STEM, and we are here to talk a little bit about Playworks and how Playworks has changed some of the things that we're doing at our school, and also Safety Squad. So I brought some friends with to talk about it, and I also have...
I'm Amanda Desua, the school counselor that visits STEM and helps these girls and others with Safety Squad and some of the other initiatives we have. So they make my job really, really easy, which is wonderful. They do most of the work themselves, and I'll let them tell you more about what they do.
All right, so as we're getting the PowerPoint up, I didn't tell them that they were going to be using a microphone. So you guys will just have this, all right? And then you'll just pass it down the line and just talk right into it, okay? All right. Oh, can we start with the first?
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I'm in 5th grade, and my role in Safety Squad is going out in the mornings and make sure people are safe.
Hi, I'm Madison Wissing. I'm in 5th grade, and my role in Safety Squad is helping kids and making sure that they're safe.
My name is Kira, and I'm in 5th grade. My role in Safety Squad is student council, so I basically just take over most of the morning jobs and recess.
Hi, I'm Andrea Breska, and I'm also student council, and what we do is we kind of set up the meetings and everything, and also go out in the mornings and make sure kids are being safe.
Do I need it to talk? Okay. So as you know, we don't have busing at Randall, so we have parent drop-off and pickup. So a couple years ago, our student council decided to institute a safety squad, and that safety squad just kind of generally helps in the morning, and the girls will tell you a little bit about that. You have to be on level 3 to be a part of safety squad and be a part of student council, so that's in 4th and 5th grade, and they take on a lot of responsibility. We don't make a schedule, we don't figure out any of that. They've also decided that they wanted to help out and help problem solve at recess, and that's where Playworks comes in. So a lot of our Playworks, they help with some of the games and things. So I will let them tell you a little bit more.
Do you want me to take this one? Sure. Okay, so we've talked about how we know that before kids can learn, they need to feel safe. And we have a little Maslow's hierarchy up there with safety and belonging towards the bottom. Right?
So a little bit of what we do is we go out in the mornings and we walk on the sidewalk and on the playground, and we just make sure kids are getting there safe and they're feeling like we say hello and good morning to everybody. And during recess at Playworks, we just stop conflicts and we encourage gameplay with all the kids.
So in the morning, we wear these orange vests so that kids, because you have to be in 4th and 5th grade to sign up. So we put these orange vests on so people know that like we're in safety squad and that, oh, yeah.
So after luncheon or after recess, we get everybody lined up in their spots, and then 3 people go up. They don't have to be safety squad members. They can be anybody, and you do a cheer, and then it's like a repeat after me one. So there's a leader, and then the audience does the repeats after them, and so we can get ready for class and get all of our energy out.
Adding on to Maggie, we also, it's kind of like an add-on cheer. We would go up and making sure like we're getting all the energy out for all the kids that have left over, so then they're ready to go inside and learn and not get distracted easily and not get all energetic.
So we would like to teach you a cheer, because we were thinking maybe you've been sitting for a little while, so we would like to get you up and moving. And when I talk to our safety squad, they would really, because Playworks is all about including everyone, they would like to include everyone in the cheer. So they would like everyone to stand up, and we'll have 2 safety squad members over there and 2 over here. And then, just like the girl said, we will start, and then they will say the first part, and then you will repeat after them. So who is the lucky one? Maddie, do you want this?
Sure.
Okay.
Tarzan. And on a rubber band.
Swinging on a rubber band.
Tarzan.
Tarzan.
Crashed into a frying pan.
Crashed into a frying pan.
Ooh, that hurt.
Ooh, that hurts.
Now Tarzan has a tan.
Now Tarzan has a tan.
And he hopes it doesn't peel.
And he hopes it doesn't peel.
Like a banana.
Like a banana.
Jane.
Jane.
Flying on an airplane.
Flying on an airplane.
Jane.
Jane.
Crashed into a traffic lane.
Crashed into a traffic lane.
Ooh, that hurt.
Ooh, that hurt.
Now Jane has a pain.
Now Jane has a pain.
And Tarzan has a tan.
And Tarzan has a tan.
And he hopes it doesn't peel.
And he hopes it doesn't peel.
Like a banana.
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 And that is their signal. When they finish that, then they're ready to go into recess. And we have several other cheers. That is the one we picked to share with you this evening. All right. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. O'Brien.
Seemed to me like the most unsafe device, the most unsafe thing we had here today was that microphone in your guys' hand. That's a hard one to answer, isn't it?
You don't have to.
Maybe like you're not supposed to have any devices out on the playground because you have your backpack and your iPads in that. So sometimes the teachers have to tell them to put their iPads away because people do it anyway when they're not supposed to.
Greg?
Mr. Baumgart.
Could you tell us how many kids are involved with the safety squad?
20, 22-ish. Not a lot of kids, but like still enough. But we don't want a lot of kids because it could get chaotic easily.
And that wouldn't be very safe, would it?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the reason that you're involved in this program? Or you might have more than one.
The reason that we're involved is because we just want kids to be safe and have fun and just like we don't want like school to be overwhelming for kids. So we just want kids to know that they're safe and that they should like be excited to go to school and not like worried.
Go ahead.
Are there any more questions?
Ms. Roddy.
Thank you. Yes, I have a question. What are some of the safety reminders that you often give your classmates?
Well, sometimes kids sometimes are play fighting, and that's not really okay. So then we have to remind them that you need to be safe and not hurt each other.
Anyone else?
I have one question. What happens when there's a conflict on the playground and they can't decide like who's going to be up first or who's going to kick first or who's going to take the ball? What do they do?
I can answer that. What we do is we either do rock, paper, scissors, because in kickball, at recess and in the morning, well, we don't really play in the morning, but at recess, people pick team captains, and it's not fair because then they just pick their best friends and the best players. And so sometimes a teacher has a little bowl and has like a red or blue chip, and you just pick randomly, and that's whose team you're on. Or in kickball, there's a lot of fighting, like a lot that we can't take care of because they wouldn't listen to us because it's that bad. We just really just take care of like little conflicts, like or being unsafe. Like last year, I had to tell a little boy he was jumping off an equipment, and I had to ask him once, and then he wouldn't stop. So then that's the time when you go get a teacher. You don't act like a teacher, where you don't do what a teacher does, like be the boss of them. You just want to make sure they're safe.
Okay. Anything else? Well, I commend your efforts. I appreciate the leadership role that you've taken in your building to help it to be a safer place. And also, you are obviously role models for the other students in your school. So thank you very much from myself and the rest of the committee for the work that you're doing at Randall STEM. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
stay for our cheer?
Okay, moving along with the meeting, we're in the section of action items. And the first is the approval of the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting minutes from September 3rd, last month.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded for approval of the minutes. Do we have any discussion? Any questions? Corrections?
Do our slides for us too.
All in favor, say
See none? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, Stacy, 4-0. Next action item this evening, approval of the academic and career planning, as well as education for employment plan. And we have several staff members here with us for that. Molly Hobbenshield, also Amanda Wagner, and I'm not sure if Dan Kieser is a part of that as well.
They're a supporting cast member.
Okay, sounds good. So take it away. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having us tonight. We are currently in our third formal year of academic and career planning here in the School District of Waukesha, and we have a few updates to share with you. Our first is how we're going about getting academic and career planning in the hands of our students. We have a new tool this year that was chosen by the state. We used to use a platform called Career Cruising. It is now called Zello, and Zello is much more user-friendly and interfaces better for the kids and all those involved. Zello's goal is to help kids explore what they would like to do in their future. So it offers lots of different interest inventories, matchmakers, to college and career planning. There's places where the kids can go and see a day of a life of an electrician. They can ask doctors, lawyers, carpenters questions about what the career path truly is all about. So our students work through career cruising in grades 6 through 12. We've also done some updates with our overall scope and sequence for academic and career planning. Each year we have a district team who comes together to evaluate the lessons we currently have in place, what is working, what is not working, and how do we better serve our students. We made some changes this past year to better meet the needs of all of our students, and in your packet you have some information on just the general scope and sequence for each of the years of the students in academic and career planning. The neat thing about Zello is it also has some interactive lessons where the kids can get in and they can go through different modules, everything from what are your work values to cost of living and budgeting. Parent access to Zello is a lot more simple than it was with career cruising. It's just the kid shares with the parent. The parent can then see the student's plan. So they can truly use it as a working portfolio, and they can sit down with their guardian and say, Mom, Dad, guardian, here's my plan A, here's my plan B, these are the schools, these are the careers that match up with where I'm going. And we really want that to be an ongoing conversation for all of our students, grades 6 through 12. They also have that conversation with their advisor. They do a lot of conferring about what they're thinking and what's driving them, and then that in turn helps them schedule for their classes. Some things that are still in place from last year, method test prep. All of our students in grades 9 through 11 have access to that right through Zello. So it's just another button they click and they're able to go on there and practice ACT-like questions with immediate feedback. We've been looking at the data and our students really are using it. They're using it so much that we've had some students in 12th grade come and say, where did my method test prep go? Well, you kind of phase out after 11th grade, but we are always happy to try to make accounts for those seniors who are once again taking the ACT. A lot of our schools are doing some targeted work with their CCR groups with method test preps. We still are able to order transcripts right through Zello, which saves our students money, so they're not using parchment. And so far, our teachers and our students are reporting that they're enjoying using Zello much more than career cruising.
And just to add on a couple other pieces that we've added to the district's website on academic and career planning are some suggestions on how to talk to your child about college and career readiness and how to navigate that journey, in our hopes that our families are sitting down and working with their students to talk about, what classes are you interested in and why, and how might that help you develop a career pathway for your future, and really target what they're good at, what they're interested in, and make a successful life for themselves. And then for our Ed for Employment plan, we didn't print it because it's a large document, but it is linked on there, and it is really just an update. So a couple celebrations I'd like to share is that we've increased our number of industry certifications that our students are earning again. So this is 3 years in a row that we're adding more students earning those industry certifications. Anything from a CNA to ASE auto certifications. Youth apprentices have also grown quite tremendously. Our dual enrollment growth is also something that other Waukesha schools are like, what is happening? Last year we had 35 students in the dual enrollment academy at WCTC, and that is such a deal breaker, a game changer for our families. We're allowing our students to go access 1 full year of WCTC classes that align with an associate's degree or a credit program. And the success rate is very high, and we've had some students transition into some really great career paths. Every year, I feel like, we have the largest amount of transcribed credit classes with WCTC in Waukesha County. If you look at the other area school districts, we exceed them pretty much in every area. And we're always looking for opportunities. So you're going to get to hear me again talking about an additional class that we'd like to bring to Waukesha that will help increase our students' opportunities to get that college credit before they even leave us. Another area of celebration is 99% of our juniors and seniors take at least one career and technical ed class. We have, on average, about 50% of our juniors and seniors are considered what is called a concentrator, which is 2 or more credits aligned to a specific pathway. And that data, while it's great, the studies show that increases the graduation rate as well as earning potential past graduation by concentrating on something as part of a high school career. A couple changes we've embarked on is the Regional Career Pathways is a state-endorsed program. We participated last year with the nursing pathway, and what that is designed to do is to really outline from freshman year on classes that you can take in high school, dual credit opportunities, work-based learning, and credentialing that leads to a very high-need, high-demand job, in this case nursing. And it's aligned with all of the post-secondary institutions so the students can really see a clear map of if I want to be a medical assistant all the way down to a PA, what track I need to take, where I can go for these credits, what transfers, and it's a very clear picture. So we've already added that one, and we had about 71 students finish the pathway thanks to our health academy, and then about 15 finish the work-based learning, so they really only have to hit 3 of the 4 criteria, but about 15 hit all 4, so that's pretty huge. We'll be adding construction and architecture coming up. We're missing an industry credential, so my next point is that we're going to be looking to add one next year. And then manufacturing, IT, and education are kind of on deck. What's important to know about the Regional Career Pathways is it's really going to assist in the new changes to Perkins legislation that's coming. So Perkins 5 is really forcing career and technical ed to take a hard look at what skills are needed and how it aligns with industries and what gaps are needed, and that's where the funding really is tied to. But these state-endorsed regional career pathways are already doing the work for us in that lane, so that's really great. We're ahead of the game in a lot of ways. All right, so what questions do you have for us related to either academic and career planning or Ed for Employment?
Mr. Baumgart.
I think just a comment. The celebrations that I saw up there, I'm familiar with most of those, and the district should be proud of what we've accomplished in those areas, getting the kids certified in certain fields, and the amount of work that we're doing in conjunction with WCTC to expedite the kids' education and make it a little bit more cost efficient too, because it saves them some money when they go in there with a lot of credits. So what we've done in this area is one of the areas that we need to be very proud of, and I thank you guys for what you've done on that, as well as the staff that supports it.
Yes, absolutely. We have some pretty talented teachers making sure our students have access to really great programs, starting in middle school on up. In your packets, I believe there's also just an infographic that I tend to update every year that shows some more data points that are good to know, and the previous years are available, so if you ever want to compare year to year and see the growth, but there is growth in almost every category.
Anything else? Mr. O'Brien.
So I'm kind of curious. We have the number of children that are participating in the WCTC. I mean, how many is that right now?
Last year was 35 graduates. This year, I'd have to look and see the actual number, but it's higher than 35 that are enrolled.
You know, obviously we can't ask about specific students, but it'd be nice to know what the profile is of those students that choose those paths, academic profile. I mean,
What I can tell you is it needs to be a student that has identified a pathway fairly early on, because they have to have the availability in their schedule to be gone most of the day. They typically will come back for one class, maybe. They are very motivated, and they have to be willing to leave campus, which senior year can be very tough. So right now we're in the homesick phase, because they want to be on campus for homecoming and things like that. But once we get past that, they are just full bore. We have a few students that struggle because they are college level classes with other Waukesha County students, but they're all high school students. So the cohort model really does support them. I'm going to just tell one quick story about a student, Hunter. I use him as an example. I think this is the last time I can do it. He was a student that took every architecture and construction class we have and knew that was his pathway. Probably in fact, his 6th grade middle school teacher reached out to me and said he knew that's what he wanted to do in 6th grade. Applied for the first year that they offered the building and construction program. And before he graduated high school, he signed his apprenticeship papers with a company. Completely paid for. His continued education is paid for, and he's making really good money. So it's a testament to both academic and career planning, because he heard about dual enrollment as part of that and the Dual Enrollment Academy. So,
well, the reason I ask is we had, discussion earlier tonight about instructional minutes and test scores and things like that. I would assume when you mentioned that these children generally are very well motivated, that they're not the type of kids that are going to goof off on a test.
oh, I don't know that I would agree. Some of our students, that's their wheelhouse. That is their saving grace. I am a poster child I was an average student. I'm going to say it on camera, I had to repeat freshman math over as a senior. It's okay, but as soon as I took a business class, I understood math because it was in the context I was learning in. That's a lot of these students. They may not be strong academically across the board, but they're going to have one spark that is like, it just connects everything and they just flourish. So it's finding that spark and being able to ignite it that's the key.
Well, I mean, I'd be interested in knowing, as we go through this, as we profile these kids, I mean, what were their academic scores on tests in 3rd and 5th grade reading? Were they showing potential at an early age, and were they showing an indication for at least being motivated enough to take the test? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Sure. I'm not talking about the kid that struggles to take the test. I'm talking about the kids that just blow off the test. Sometimes a really smart kid blows off the test too, So as we go through these, I'm glad we have these options for kids. I think that's the right way to do things. But we need to collect more and more data about how we're serving these kids to get them to the point where they're taking these options and having success. And I just don't think we do a deep enough dive in that area, especially considering our test scores as they're at today. So anyway, great program. Glad you guys are so excited about it. It sounds like you're doing great things for kids.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much for, Mr. Baumgart.
This is an approval, right?
Oh, yes, for Ed for Employment, yes.
Just so I'm clear, is this the annual thing we have to do?
Correct,
Thank you.
yes.
Then I move for approval of the Academic and Career Planning Education for Employment Plan.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and second for the approval of academic and career planning and education employment plan presented to us this evening. At this time, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Stacy, 4-0. Thank you.
Now for our cheer. No.
There you go. Next action item this evening is the approval of 2019-2020 overnight field trip requests in front of us. And we do have one additional one that was on our desk this evening. So you might need just a little bit of time to look at that before we move on here. So I'd be looking for a motion.
Are we going to discuss these?
Yep.
There's one in here that bothers me, I guess. I've always been in favor of the majority that we've done, but one of these is troubling me, and that is the one where we're going to have a community development in Tanzania. Two reasons. One is this is a service-oriented thing, and I've always been a very strong supporter of service of any kind. And that's good that we're doing that. But to go halfway around the globe at that cost to the kids, to a country I'm not that familiar with or comfortable with, that part of the world, this really troubles me. We've got places all over the United States that we could do service. And I don't know why we have to go that far to do it. So this is one I'm very troubled with and very likely will not support.
Mr. Bryan.
You know, I didn't actually look closely at that one, but I would probably feel the same way, Mr. Baumgart. I do have a question, though, for a historical question. Field trip requests now, are they just approved by the committee and they don't go to the full board? Is that been the way?
That's correct,
okay.
yeah.
It's because I haven't looked at these for a long time, so now I know why. Another question I have is, as I recall, and I can't remember if I was ever on CNI, maybe I was for a short period of time. As I recall, quite often one of the criteria we have is when you look at a trip, is it inclusive? And when we go to these really expensive field trips, you know, you can't expect someone who can barely put food on the table to fork out $4-5 for their kids to go on a field trip. So I'm not sure that we should be in the business of these really expensive trips and treating it as an approved board trip. So I'm a little bit concerned about that in general. And I don't know, and Mr. Baumgart, you can help me with this, but I believe we used to have that discussion. If you're going to do a field trip, is it accessible to everybody regardless of income status?
The answer would be yes.
And this doesn't seem to be that way. When you talk about trips to Europe, when you talk about trips to Tanzania, and the kids are going to pay for it, $4 or $5 out of a parent's pocket for a kid's trip to Europe, if you're in the poverty zone, I don't think it's going to happen. So.
Well, and that's an issue we have dealt with, Kurt, and I appreciate your concern with that. And part of it, the reason this is done a year and a half in advance is the intention is to raise the money so that all of the kids that want to go can go. So that's why we give them a year and a half to do this. So they're doing the right thing by asking now, but the point would still be that it is to be inclusive. Whether it will be, I don't know, but that's the plan.
Mr. O'Brien.
Well, then it should be on the form. I mean, it should be part of the application to go, that it's going to be inclusive. What would be the intent of the people? To me, when you have a form that says, we're going to go and this is how much it's going to cost the kids, and there's nothing on the form saying, how are we going to address those students that are in need? Is the district going to pay for them? Are they going to fundraise for those kids that need help? I think, I think that should be part of the form. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm going to vote against this stuff, but I am saying that it seems that we've lost something when we don't make it a priority when we consider these trips. Is it affordable for the overall populace of Waukesha? And if it's not affordable for the overall populace, what is the plan and remedy on the form for the request that says you're going to do something about that? Instead of just saying, well, we got this trip, it's going to cost each kid $4,000, and it's not going to come out of the district's pocket.
Well, there is a sheet on here that covers the fundraising, but it's pretty generic.
Go ahead, Ms. Roddy.
Okay. To address Mr. O'Brien's concern, Section 2 looks like it does ask the questions of the family who might, well, the question file out says, do you qualify for free or reduced? And then this goes to advisors. So am I correct in the assumption that the counselors or social workers would see this and then they could address families individually? And
yes.
Yes, okay.
Just a couple things. I mean, Mr. O'Brien, to your point, it's up to you and the board as to whether or not you want to approve it. A couple things I would like to add. This is an optional club for kids. This is a current optional club at West High School that they're thinking 12 students are going to participate in. The timeline is 2 years, to your point, Mr. Baumgart, that they allow very general fundraising opportunities for, and then there is the financial assistance form for students who are not able to fund, and then the school would deal with that individually. So again, with all those things in place, that would be the protocol, but again, it'd ultimately be your decision.
Mr. O'Brien.
Well, the one that brought to my attention was the European trip for the, it says West High School, and then it says Activity Sport Club, North, South, and West School High School Orchestras. And I don't know if we have an orchestra club or that covers that. Well, the main point is that we should have something on the form that says we're going to raise money that would help, that would be prioritized to help those who can't afford to go. I think that should be on the form going forward. I'm not saying I'm against it tonight. I'm just saying, to me, we used to have a very strong emphasis that we wanted to make sure that it was, that those who couldn't afford would not be excluded. Yeah.
Is it possible, I think some of the staff is here. Could
Want to hear from our...
Yeah, there you go. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jamie Dringenberg. I'm the orchestra teacher at West and at Horning.
Hi, I'm Courtney Gildersleeve, and I am the orchestra director at Les Paul Middle School and Waukesha South High School.
So we can certainly address your questions about finances. This is an optional trip for students, so obviously it's not required that they pay to attend this trip. It did ask on the form that we filled out to list out some of the fundraising, and as you said, it is 2 years. So we don't have all 2 years worth of fundraising opportunities completely laid out, but over the course of this school year at least, and then some of the ones that we do every year,
Yes.
those are listed. And I can tell you just from West standpoint, like we do try to keep a big variety of fundraiser opportunities so that it's not always going and selling, a brochure to people.
Right.
But the company that we're using for this trip, World Strides, they actually offer financial assistance as well. And so families can, after they register, they can contact World Strides and they can potentially receive some financial assistance through them as well, which was one of the reasons that we went with this company. I also really appreciated their payment plan options, that they have an extended payment plan that can actually extend beyond the trip as an option for families that would like to go but perhaps might not have all of that money at that given time. So the payment plan is kind of like financing their trip. So I hope that
answer some
And
of the
any
questions.
money that students fundraise comes off that final number, so it keeps reducing, and it goes into their individual student accounts.
Do you do Kringles? Is that yours?
Oh, yes, it is South, yes. And we do butter braids, too, if you like those. Yeah, I will.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
I'm going to ask you to separate the votes, at least for
Sure.
these two.
Single out the Global Citizenship Club and the Combined Orchestra?
That would help me,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
As well.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion for approval of all the other overnight field trip requests.
So moved.
Okay. Motion?
Seconded.
And second. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes, Stacy, 4-0. And then we'd be looking for a motion for approval for the Global Citizenship Club Tanzania Africa trip. Mr. Bryan.
Before we do the motion, I mean, let's have a discussion on this first. So,
Sure.
I mean, so if we motion and second it, we feel comfortable with motioning and seconding it.
Sure.
Since Mr. Baumgart brought it up and I wasn't paying much attention to it, maybe hear more about this program.
Right, so we also asked the chaperone to be here this evening, but she has a school obligation. But we could certainly look at bringing this back next month to you so that she could be here, provide additional information.
I think that'd be a good idea, actually.
Yeah,
I
great.
mean, it's not that we're against it, but to me, I'd feel more comfortable if I knew more about it.
So just to be clear, do you want to take action on orchestra and then we'll table
We
the,
can table this one.
Okay.
That would be my request to the
Okay.
chair.
so
The African one?
Yeah, and then we'll
Yeah.
go on to the West
We'll go
one.
on.
then
to
we'll
the-
seek a vote,
Yep.
action vote for Germany?
Yes.
Okay.
We'd be looking for approval for the Combined Orchestra European tour to Germany and Austria with students from North, South, and West high schools. Mr. Bryan.
Okay, and this one too, I guess I don't really want to say no to it because there wasn't a prior criteria that there'd be a detailed explanation and on how we'd handle making sure that it was inclusive. So I don't have a problem with voting for it. I do have a problem if we don't get a more detailed plan on how we're going to address the needs beyond just saying, well, we're contracting with somebody that the parents can talk to and get some help. Well, that seems like we're kind of setting them adrift. I'm sure that's not your intent, but I would rather approve the program with the expectation that we'd have someone come back at the end of this year to tell us who's going, who's expected to go, and how we're helping those people get there.
So, Mr. O'Brien, just to clarify then, are you, because the board has put together the overnight trip request for financial assistance, I don't know if you've had a chance to look thoroughly at that. Are you seeking something in addition to those sections being filled out?
For this trip, I want more detail. I mean, normally I don't remember a lot of overseas trips in the past being approved or being offered. Now, maybe that's something I just haven't paid attention to at the board meetings, but
Well, it doesn't come to the full board.
right, it doesn't come to the full
Right,
board. So it may be something that's been going on for a long time, and it's been going up and up and up, right?
Growing, and it's an issue I've taken a concern with before, so.
We want our schools to have the same opportunities other schools
I do
have in the
too.
area. I mean, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be doing this stuff. I just want to make sure we're doing the best to include, because of the demographics of our community, that, people don't feel left out, so.
Okay.
I'm
Mr.
gonna move for
Baumgart.
approval of this one.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion second for the approval of the combined orchestra European tour, Germany, Austria, with students from the 3 high schools.
See if there's any further discussion before we vote.
Any further discussion?
None, I read through it.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, let's take the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes, Stacy, 4-0. And then we'll bring the Global Citizenship Club Tanzania Africa trip back next month. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck on your trip.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And good luck with your fundraising.
And thank you for being here,
Bring
for
us strudel so we
clarifying
can
things and answering questions.
Thanks, I'll get on board with that one.
Thanks for, and also thanks for coming to talk on this.
Yes, it helped.
Does help.
Okay. Next this evening, we are into our informational items. First up, we'll be talking about and listening and learning about middle school instructional minutes. We have Dan Keyser here tonight. We have Rob Bennett from Les Paul Middle School, Bob Blessington from Horny Middle School, and also Jason Sadowski from Butler Middle School. Welcome.
Contact issue. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of the work we've been doing to try to look at instructional minutes within the middle school day and the impacts that we are hoping to have and opportunities to look further into as we move through the school year. In the next slide is familiar to you, the board priorities of establishing our achievement goals. On the left-hand side, looking at the English language arts, and then the right-hand side towards the top, the mathematics goals, and thinking about our middle schools, the prior work done from grades kindergarten on up to our middle school to achieve those goals, and the work we hope to accomplish as we move those students on to high school. Each year, those marks increase, hoping to open doors and provide opportunities for all of the students that walk through all 3 of our traditional schools and the STEM middle school as well. What we've been doing is looking at a lot of data and analyzing data over the course of the last several years, looking at our scheduling system, how classes are offered, minute allocations. And one of our current realities that we are coming across now, the next slide we'll share, is we have noticed decreases in student achievement in math and reading from 2015 to 2019 in our 8th grade. It has been somewhat of a roller coaster ride. There have been moments that achievement has increased, other moments that it has decreased. Collectively as a middle school level, individually within sites, but it is a trend that we want to address and need to look further into. There's been a decrease in student achievement in math in grades 6 and 7 over the course of the last few years, and as we were looking at it too, we wanted to see correlations of different things going in, and one of the things that was alarming as we looked at it was that we really ranked near the bottom when it comes to regard of total daily instructional minute allocations. And further on in the slide deck, you'll see how we rank around the area, but also what does it look like within our school buildings each and every day.
So currently on the left-hand side there in 6th and 7th grade, 71, a little over 71% of our instructional minutes are allocated to core areas, so that would be math, science, literacy, and social studies. Where a little over 21% is in electives, and then Phi-Ed, which is a mandatory class, is 7.1%. But then when you look at 8th grade, Phi-Ed stays the same. Again, required elective is at 35.7%, and then core area is at 57.1%. So that's kind of the comparison with just what we in our current state. When we look at other districts and between districts in our area, as well as comparison to districts that are similar in size and demographics, we are at the bottom in allocation minutes. So if you look at, we're at, the 3 of us are at 426 minutes per day. And then you compare that to STEM Saratoga, we're at 440. So total amount of minutes, we're at the bottom there. But the other thing that was really eye-popping for us too is if you look at the number of electives that we offer in 8th grade, is we offer five semester equivalent electives, where most other districts offer 3. The ones that are blank are areas that we could not identify how many electives they offer at the 8th grade level.
Well, is this me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Very soon. So the needs that we're looking at is we're really looking for increased achievement in the areas of math and language arts. One of the concerns is we do see the decrease when they get to 8th grade. 6th and 7th we're able to maintain, but 8th grade we do see that drop. So that is the area. That's where we're seeing that concern. And we're looking for that increase for 8th grade, and we're also looking at some focus as increasing total number of instructional minutes in the school day.
Okay, just to kind of sum this all and put this proposal all together, in summary, you're looking to really have a common minute allocation for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, consistent with what you saw in that first slide. So really, that's, we want to have consistency in what's devoted to the core subject versus elective versus FIAD. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, looking for consistency. And then the last slide, really our action steps. There's 2 things that you heard today is really a reallocation of instructional minutes. So an increased core instructional minutes from what you saw in that last slide from 57 to 71. So really, it would be a reduction of elective instructional minutes from 35 to 21. So really what you saw, that visual image. Again, a common minute allocation for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We think that could improve some efficiencies. And in addition to that, so kind of second to that, is explore the possibility of adding additional minutes. That's where you saw the comparisons with the other districts. So we're really, proposing this today as one is to have that minute allocation with the core areas to be consistent among all the grade levels. Second is adding instructional minutes. You saw, like I said, we're near the bottom, and exploring that possibility. There's some other factors that we need to look at, and we're not ready to make a final recommendation on that. So at this time, if questions you have?
Mr. Baumgart.
I think maybe you've answered it on the yellow sheet that we got. Additional instructional minutes will help provide more learning opportunities for students as well as build consistency across the middle school grades. The consistency is not between the three schools. The consistency is from 7th to 8th grade. The same number? Okay, just because I was confused as where you were getting inconsistent. So
yeah.
You are consistent.
Right now we're, yeah.
Way, but
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's just a clarification I needed.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, I'm not real comfortable with this presentation. Maybe with some more questions, maybe I'll feel more comfortable. When we talk about 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, are we talking about the same exams or different exams during that time period? Because the forward exam is only for 8th grade, it's not for 6th and 7th.
It's for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
So it's the forward exam in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And when we talk about more instructional minutes, and Saratoga is one of the comparables, well, Saratoga didn't do so well in the forward exam, especially on the ELA scores. And yet they're STEM kids, so you expect them to do a little bit better in math. But yet when you compare them, it's not like they're gangbusters better than other people in the district. I also don't think it's going to make a big difference on our test scores by changing what we do in middle school so much, is that we really need to focus on what we're doing. You guys are going to be judged a lot more harshly if you're getting a high level of elementary child that scores really high in the forward exams, and those scores go down, right? You're not getting that. We're not delivering kids that are scoring well in their forward exams in the elementary level across the board, across the district. So my concern with focusing on minutes and shifting stuff around, it doesn't seem like it's a deep dive that we need to take into why our scores are low in this district. We need to take a deep dive. It's not just the middle schools. And one of the school districts you left out in your comparables was Muskego, Norway. And I don't know why we leave that out when they set the bar as high as it can possibly be in our community. I know they have a lot of youth options and instructional options in the middle schools. I don't know what their instructional minutes are like. I do know that hitting these high test scores has been a 10-year program for them. It started with Joe Schrader, who was the superintendent, and it continued on through the current superintendent. And I talked to one of their school board members this weekend, and he said, you know, when we interviewed Joe for the position of superintendent, everybody had the good to great book. Joe was the only one that actually had a plan on how to get great. Everybody wanted to talk about going from good to great, but Joe had a real defined plan. And he came in and he executed on that plan, and it took us all this time to get to where we are today, but we're there. So this isn't an overnight fix with just more minutes in the middle school. We need a much deeper dive than that. So when I hear educators concerned about the shift in minutes, to me we're doing something to make us feel good, and maybe not enough to make us actually address what needs to be addressed, not just within our middle schools, but within our elementaries and up to our high schools. And why wasn't Muskego Norway in the comparables? I don't understand why that wouldn't have been up there as well.
We can get that information too. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
And I'd like to talk on that too, is one of the pieces that we've been instilling in and you want to talk about a plan. So starting at the elementary level, we've been doing our comprehensive literacy model, and from my understanding, you've been pretty successful at the elementary school. We continue that through 7th grade. Like I said before, our 6th and 7th grade scores have been maintaining, and we've been doing a lot of adjustments at the middle school level for that. All of a sudden, in 8th grade, we do a different type. CLM is looks completely different, because we go from about 110 minutes down to 54 minutes. And that's our concern, and that's where we're seeing, we don't see that consistency all through 8th grade. And we're seeing that in our scores, as we're seeing that drop going from 6th and 7th grade, we're seeing that drop going down 5 to 7% in 8th grade. And that's why we're looking at it's not just the allocation of minutes, and but it's also potentially implementing that CLM model, at that full implementation of CLM at that 8th grade level. We didn't put that in here for the purpose, because we want that have that more of the deep dive into that into those ideas. But that is that's one of the reasons that we're struggling at that 8th grade level.
Mr. Brown.
Well, I would be very reluctant to support any change until we could do our deep dive analysis. And I say that in the fact that, Randall STEM had very nice forward test scores, but Saratoga didn't have such nice test scores. So when I see a feeder school into a middle school, like, Randall, the STEM is a small section of our overall, and I see those scores are good going in and they're not so good coming out, it makes me wonder what's going on in that particular program, okay? And I do want to have consistency in the number of instructional minutes across the district at our middle school level. I'm not so sure that just taking an administrator-down approach on this problem is the right answer. I think we need to engage our teachers and ask them and challenge them on what we can do to provide better results across the district so that the middle schools can have more success because the elementary schools are having more success. And plus, because you guys are doing a good job, okay? And I don't want to blame the educators, I don't want to blame anybody, but we do need to take a deep dive on how we can do better across the district, based on our forward scores that we just received here a few weeks back.
I would agree with you. Adding instructional minutes, redistributing is not a silver bullet, and we're not coming in front of you to say that it's a silver bullet. The deep dive will continue at individual buildings, but also as a system. We're doing the deep dive work. We'll continue to do that. This is being responsive to some ambitious goals that our board has set out. It's not a fix-all, but it's something we need to seriously consider. So I want to be clear that the deep dive is ongoing.
Ms. Landish.
I just like to add a couple things too for timeline purposes. And then I'd like our principals to talk currently about the level of collaboration with your staff, if you would update the board on that. So the board is seeing this item for the first time as an information item. This exact agenda item will come back next month as a discussion item. It will come back in December as an action item. Okay, so it will come in front of you 3 times. Absolutely for the purposes of feedback, deep dive, questions, etc. So every time we're here, you'll be able to get more. So please give us that feedback so we can address whatever it is needed. We have that 3-month timeline because it impacts staffing, obviously. So if the board votes and approves it, we move forward with a different staffing plan than we would if the board denies it. Then we have some work to do.
I think too, Ms. Landers, one of the things, Mr. O'Brien, you talked about too, the deep dive, looking at individual sites, doing different data pieces to find trends in what's been happening. And I know we can each speak to our own building, and this isn't that point to do that, but even looking back to 2011 to 2016, a 5-year trend in our building where scores weren't an increase, where there were more minutes than we currently have in our structure because of blocking things and putting things together in a 5-year trend. One of 32 middle schools in the state that did have that 5-year trend in math and language arts. We made a shift, we lost some instructional minutes, and it's one piece to the puzzle that we do definitely have to look into. But since that point, just speaking from my building alone and passionately from my building alone, we had a decrease. So it's really digging into deep to, was it minutes, was it an instructional allocation within those minutes, and impact it had. But it's not something to just bat an eye when you see a 5-year trend of great success and a large alteration to schedule and some decrease since. And it's not by a lack of effort, it's not by a lack of instructional practice, but it's fidelity to plans and curriculum that's in place to ensure that we do it. Our sites have been involved in this process from about 1.5 years ago, talking about summer scheduling. It's teams coming in to look at schedules, what could allocation of minutes look like, what are different things, because as Bob said, it's not, more is not always better. Right. But looking at the use of fidelity in programming and how can that be done. Staff shared input just this past week on thoughts and ideas and a collective effort with them to look at what are possibilities, what are things currently happening instructionally, what are changes within student demographics, instructional programming, and how can we meet the needs of each and every one of our students that walk through the door. And giving them some consistency within their school day and their school experience as a middle schooler of a 3-year experience. They've faced enough transitions as it is, and looking at how we could reallocate some minutes to, as another option, looking at reallocating instructional minutes. How does that look? Transitions during a day. All of those things will have an impact within it. So it's our work in the next 2 months to do that and to dig deeper, and I think we've already begun that process.
Mr. Bryan.
Well, I know we're addressing some issues that we felt might be contributory to the situation. We had the house system, Rob, you know me, when my children went through, where my wife works and all that stuff. When we had the house system, educators were telling us not to cut it. Keep it. And it got cut. It made a significant change in how we operate our middle schools. And now we're going back to some form of a house system. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but there was a recognition that we need something like that to help us better deliver educational services to our students. So that's a step in the right direction. Okay. The other thing that we've realized as a board that we had a significant discipline problem across the district at all levels, and that the teachers need more support when it comes to having safe and sound learning environments at the elementary level all the way up middle school and high school. And we've been working on that too. Mr. Cook and his team has been helping with trying to come up with better strategies. And I was at White Rock the other day and really liked what I saw there. But what really concerns me is that we don't do a deep enough dive. When I look at Muskego, Norway, and I know when my kids graduated, I was very confident Waukesha was a better school program than Muskego, Norway. I can't say that today with those scores. I mean, their scores in the elementary level blow us out of the water. Middle school levels blow us out of the water. Their high school scores their demographics are different than ours, but we don't really, we're not going to fall back on that. We can do better. And when I look at demographic similar schools to Muskego, Norway, they still blow us out of the water. So, when I don't see Muskego Norway up there as a comparison, and you're coming to me and asking to make changes without that comparison on the screen and without the other deep dive I'm asking for, I'm not too excited about supporting changes at the middle school level in terms of instructional minutes and reallocations away from youth options, more options for kids. Because I know at Muskego there's so many options for kids, it's a scheduling nightmare, but they do it somehow. So
I think we have one more minute more than Muskego, Mr. O'Brien. Total instructional minutes. We have 6 minutes more than Muskego.
They're getting better results with less minutes?
That's what you just said, right? Yeah.
A lot better results with less minutes across the, and really it's the elementaries that are driving it. I know, if you get a good feed of elementary kids, the middle schools are going to have a lot of pressure on them to be successful with those kids. So I just don't think there's a correlation to the minutes. I think there's a correlation to, I think our staff can tell us what to do. If we do this deep dive across the board, I think our staff can help us with that.
And that's been some work that was started with that staff to give input to use of minutes, fidelity of curriculum within those minutes, the minutes needed to deliver it as they were intended rather than doing something differently than the true program with tested results show. So that's the piece to gather more information that the work has begun.
I just have a question for the committee. Mr. O'Brien, as you've talked about doing the deep dive, is there value from this committee standpoint as we talk about that process to investigate what those districts have done as part of their improvement process? So for instance, you've mentioned Muskego, Norway. As I was finishing my superintendent's license, I met with Joe Schrader and asked him, and he said within the first 100 days of his superintendency, he was tasked with coming up with a strategic plan from the Board of Education all the way down that was fully inclusive of the community, that took into consideration the voice. And that was one of the things then that drove the Muskego process while he was there as a superintendent. I'm assuming that similar work has continued. But as we go into these school districts that do have increased minutes or different instructional approaches, would you also like us to take a look at the improvement process that they're using, that starts with the board, encompasses the parent community and such, and then helps drive the work that happens in the school and the classroom?
Well, talking, like I said, I'm familiar with Muskego, Norway a little bit, and also one of the board members is the president of WASB, for the WASB organization. And I've always noticed that they're very much into the, more than we would feel comfortable with as a board, more than even I would feel comfortable with. They're very much engaged in in their stuff. A little bit too much in my mind, but can't argue with results. And their results are really, really good. But it was something that Mr. Schrader came in the interview process. He had that plan ready to go when they hired him, and that's why they did hire him. Even though he was a little bit less on the experience side, he had that plan ready to go. That's why it was ready to go in the first 100 days. And that plan it was still, he had launched it in the first, I think he was there 3 to 5 years. He left after he launched it. He didn't follow it through to where it is today. That was his successor that did that. So it's been a 5 to 8 year success story. They built to this way. Yep. And we didn't get here overnight. We did some things that we probably shouldn't have done over the years that might not have helped us academically. We've done some other things that have helped us. So this is not something where we're just going to change something quick and suddenly we're going to turn things around, especially at the middle school level, because yes, it's an important environment, but we need to feed them. We need to make sure those kids that we got 4-year-old kindergarten. Muskego, Norway doesn't have 4-year-old kindergarten. We have an extra year to work with our kids and we're not getting as good results. Talk about instructional minutes. So and again, I know the demographics are different, but even when you compare common demographics, and when we have schools that have common demographics, they blow us out of the water. So we need to do better.
This is an information item.
Yes, it is.
Discussion is for next month.
Yes.
Let's go on.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again next month. Oh, Ms. Roddy, sorry.
I just had to, you had asked us a question about the improvement process. Yes, I would appreciate looking at something like that.
Yeah,
And then
agree.
just a comment. A lot of the questions that I had, I know it was information, but a lot of questions I had you already addressed. But two things I would like to make note of. I want to applaud the middle school level. You gentlemen always come as a united front. And in my few years here at the board, you're the only ones who ever acknowledge decrease and say, we've got this problem, this is our plan to address it. It might not be perfect to start, but you always come united, so I appreciate you folks doing that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next this evening, under informational items, we have baking for culinary, WCTC transcripted course, presented by Dan Keyser, Rob Bennett, Bob Blessington, and Jason Sadowski.
Thank you,
Liz.
Dr. Line. Just me. Dan's my supporting Cassie.
Okay.
So again, Molly Havenshield,
Okay.
Career and Technical Ed Coordinator for the district. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a new course that we'd like to bring to our high schools, and that is baking for culinary. So a little bit about the need for the course. Hospitality and tourism as a career pathway is a area of predicted growth. It's a huge industry, and we constantly are hearing, okay, let's be real, almost every industry is telling us they need people, but restaurants are not going away. We can outsource and robotize certain things, but you still need people to prep the food and cook. The labor statistics show that there's a growth of 11 to 15% over the next 10 years. In addition, our area technical college has a very strong culinary program. It already has 3 associate's degrees, 3 technical diploma programs, and 2 certifications already for our students to transition right into. In addition, our student interest is pretty high. We already have quite a number of food-related courses, most recently culinary arts. Our culinary arts program over the last 2 years has grown from 1 section to 2 sections at both of our schools that are running it. And using data from our Zello or Career Cruising through ACP, we looked at the data on how many students are interested in these types of careers. And the data shows that on average, about 1/3 of our students would be interested in a career pathway that would fall under hospitality and tourism. And like I said, the industry demand is high. Skilled jobs like a pastry chef, they're harder and harder to place. The Job Center of Wisconsin reports multiple openings, up to 500 just for restaurant cooks. So they all fall under the same kind of umbrella. So we wrote the part of the curriculum design process already with Appendix A and the UBD, and these were the learning targets that we landed on for this class. Overall, the students would analyze and apply problem-solving, collaboration, and communication skills needed for a successful career in the baking and pastry industry, demonstrate essential skills that are required to make advanced pastries, bakeries, or confections, and analyze and evaluate advanced food preparation skills essential to recipe production and final product. 3 basic overarching skills that all of our assessments would fall underneath. And then the units of study, they look delicious, first of all. First off, it's just overarching information about the profession of baking, what skills are needed, food prep and sanitation, costing, and time management. Cookies, yep. Pastries, pies and tarts, cakes and icings, custards, creams, sauces, plated desserts, and quick breads. When looking at this, we took a look at our culinary arts class as well, and we pulled out some of these elements to do a deeper dive into some of those techniques that they're already using in culinary arts, and then bring this a little bit deeper. So we allowed the students, instead of just making cookies once or twice, we can now get more in depth with them. And then in culinary arts, they can go deeper into something else like pasta. So those are the overarching units of study. We did meet with WCTC, and we already have in place the option to provide this class for transcripted credit. It aligns with their Baking for Culinary class. So students would be able to receive 3 credits at WCTC by completing this course in our high school. And this would be in addition to the 3 other credits we already have in this pathway for culinary arts and then sports, nutrition, and fitness. There is an accompanying textbook, which you see the picture of, and it is a resource. We call it a recipe book. Every kitchen would have one of these books, so it's not a need to have an entire classroom set. It is 1 book for every kitchen, and that's about 7 books per school. So that's the only additional cost to running the course other than the consumables by the students. What else do you need to know? So I already mentioned this in my previous presentation, that we do have the most Waukesha County schools that have the most transcripted credit. This would just be one additional piece. It aligns with the programs that are already in existence in WCTC. These credits are a cost-saving measure to the tune of $190 per credit for our students. Our students are leaving with about $200,000 worth of paid tuition thanks to our programs that we have. And we also have a pretty high completion rate in passing, which is a C or better for most of these programs, at 92%. So it's a rigorous course. It allows our students the fast track and a reduction in time and money investing in their future. The teachers aren't here with me today. One actually has a diving meet that she's coaching, so she couldn't be here. But we also sought out some feedback from our community. So we reached out to some area bakers, and they actually looked at our course syllabus and course design and gave us some feedback, one of which was the costing and one of which was the timeliness. I like this story. You know, in class, they make 1 cake or 1 set of cupcakes in a class period. Well, in the baking industry, you're making multiple cakes in 2 hours, and you have to crank things out much faster. So we're actually looking at developing a lab about how fast we can do things with still having a high success rate. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to taste all of these things as well. So we're building in some feedback from those industry partners. Periwinkle's Bakery, Jen's Sweet Treats, and Sweet Perfections have reached out. And they're actually volunteering to come in and help be guest teachers and mentors to the students, which I think is also amazing. Because if you haven't had a Rochester Deli cookie, you're really missing out. So that's the information about the class. Again, it's really providing another pathway for our students. It's applying a lot of the concepts that we already teach in our food service prep classes, but it's also life skills. For some of our students, they're not cooking at home with their families. They're not sharing family recipes. They're not learning how to make healthy meals or alternative choices in their lifestyle. And these classes really allow the students to not only learn that, but also learn skills that they can even be employable with. So it sounds delicious. We'll come back again next month to discuss anything, but do you have any questions for me right now?
Mr. Baumgart.
What grade level would we be talking about? Where would it fit into the full schedule of their work?
Primarily 11th and 12th grade.
Okay.
They would need to take chef foods or culinary arts prior to taking this course.
Okay.
And culinary arts has the Serve Safe certification that's in it for food prep safety and sanitation. So that is our ideal choice, but we would allow students with chef foods as well.
Mr. O'Brien.
Why quick breads rather than regular breads? I mean, to most of the stuff I see up there is stuff that, I mean, I could do a lot of that stuff. I mean,
I'm not going to be able to answer that. I'll have to come back with that. I'm wondering if they do that in culinary arts or in any of the other food classes.
Good.
Any other questions for Molly? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We look forward to
See you next
hearing
month.
back from you. Yes, thank
Maybe
you.
I'll bring treats. Wait, I'll have to bribe
There you go.
them.
Moving on to discussion items this evening, we do have one item, Math Vision 2020, Appendix A/B. We have Dan Kieser here and Dan Pachinski to give us an overview of, continued overview of Math Vision 2020, as well as some other guests.
And
So-
we do have some.
So welcome and thank you for being here.
So, through the presentation, and again, thank you for having us back again this evening. We brought two of our teachers who were part of the working teams that did all this work. And so both Nancy Singer and Adri Rabel will have an opportunity to share their experiences as we go through that presentation. So let's hope that this goes through the way we want it to. And it pops up. Yay. So our Math Vision 2020, again, just kind of starting off, this work doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's really a lot of hard work, and These are just two of our representatives. West is having their family night, so that's why we have two of our three schools represented. Otherwise, we'd have a rep from all three schools. Just as a quick reminder, just to ground us from a month ago, this is what our current math schedule kind of looks like as far as opportunities and pathways. We put middle school in there just to show you kind of where they're coming into the high school, and then the multiple options. And if this were a street sign, I would be lost without our map apps. Again, we shared, Dan and I both shared at the end of last month's presentation, this theoretical framework that we have in our vision document from Oregon. And I'm happy to announce that at the end of this, you'll actually see what this working team's hard work and dedication, what the Waukesha framework looks like. And we're pretty excited about that work. So just a little foreshadowing in there.
Just to remind you a little bit about our process. So this started a long time ago, like Dan mentioned. As a small working team, we started off, 2 springs ago with a group of teachers, and we tried to really brainstorm around some ideas on how to improve this. And through our Math Leadership Council meetings, we were able to get it down to where we had something to present to the math vision and to our high school teachers and administration. We met with each of the high school teams. We got some feedback. We've adjusted our plan. Then we developed a larger working team of 18 teachers. And really the main goal was to figure out what do we want to teach and how do we teach it better. And through that work, go ahead. You can see that we have a variety of different people that were there for us. We unpacked all of our current standards that are aligned to algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. Then we went back and we unpacked how they would align in an integrated model. And then we crosswalked all those standards with the ACT standards as well. So that took three full days to do that work. So it wasn't one 1 hour meeting after school with these teachers. It was really hard work, great conversation that came out of it. The goal of our last meeting was to come and to present to you an agreed upon framework for which we would now hopefully teach math through.
So just to kind of give you some voices from the inside, because you've been hearing Dan and I talk, and we've been fortunate enough to work with this dynamic team. I'm going to turn it over to Nancy and AJ to talk a little bit about our meetings. So what you see here are photos from each of the 3 meetings and the work that went on during those full days.
Hi, I'm AJ Rabel. I'm going into my 5th year at Waukesha South High School. Spent 3 years at STEM Academy Saratoga before that. I think with my experience, I had a kind of unique opportunity to see standards 6 through 11 and now through 14, and have noticed some opportunities for growth. And so when this came forward, I was really excited to do it. And I think that Dan's did a great job of helping everybody else see that exact same, those same opportunities that I saw for improvement. The first day, we took all of the standards that that are on the Common Core, and we laid them out by class. Walked through those standards, and we identified where those standards are also taught other places. Some things were taught 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 11th grade. Some things were taught, but maybe not with the fidelity with which we thought maybe could be done. And so we all then took votes on what standards we thought we could improve upon, do better. And then the second meeting, we came back and laid it out vertically and tried to come up with a more cohesive curriculum, identify that we have opportunities to find a more coherent curriculum.
My name's Nancy Sanger. I'm a teacher at Waukesha North. This is my 19th year. And so I have been part of, grading for learning and learning targets and everything across the board. Have been part of the math vision team for a long time. I have taught students, a lot of special ed students at the algebra level, and I also teach honors pre-calc. So I go from both ends of the spectrum. What I'm looking forward to with our new design is that it meets the needs of all students, and that, that kids get the math that they need to finish their careers and that they're ready for the workforce. So that's what I'm excited about this. It was very eye-opening to see how many times we teach some of the standards, and then those standards that we all talked about that, oh, it's the end of the year, so we only spend 1 day on this, or, you know, a week on this when it should be 2 or 3 weeks. So it was, like I said, very eye-opening to see how that process has happened, and very, very excited to have the integrated curriculum at the high school level.
So to kind of give you context in these photos here, we gave each team, so we split our team into thirds for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and we gave them all 200 plus math standards and said, okay, here's our current syllabus and our understandings, and we have phenomenal math teachers, and they were all going through each with these 200 plus standards and laying these out. And then we did a walkthrough. That took us about half a day. Then we had lunch to recharge our brains, and then we took half a day to crosswalk and look at what our ahas were. And as you heard, we had some uncoverings. We taught some standards multiple times, and in some cases, like things, probability and statistics, got pushed off, and then next thing you know, we spend 1 day towards the end of the fourth quarter covering those. So we came back, and as a team, we all said, we can do better for this. We know what we want to accomplish. And so when we got to day 2, what you see here is you don't see 3 different tables. You see really one long table. And so we said, here are our same 200 plus standards. What would it look like if we taught it as one storyline? So suspend for a minute our current knowledge around how we currently teach it as 3 discrete topics across 3 years. What if we had one storyline and we had the opportunity to teach something all the way through? So if we're talking about lines, we can talk about it from an algebraic standpoint, a geometric standpoint, and an advanced algebraic standpoint all the way through. We opened ourselves to that possibility, and this team really went through. And what you might see in the picture on the right-hand side there is you see a lot of dots on there. So what did we do with those dots?
So we each had so many dots to use, and we had to identify which standards we thought were the most important. So we did that, and again, too, like Dan was saying, the timeline. You know, most of us could take all the standards and put them in units and chapters, and every year it was the same thing. You know, okay, so we cover linear concepts, you know, September. So we kept seeing the repetition, and teachers agreed on the most important concepts. We also looked at the ACT standards with those concepts, and we also came to some realizations that, for example, graphing logarithms is something that not every child needs to know. You know, that's in higher level thinking, higher level courses. So in that sense, we really went through and prioritized on what was important in the standards and in the ACT.
And so that's exactly what we ended up doing. Is we then came back after melting our brains for 2 full days. We came back this fall right after school started, and we dug into those ACT standards, and noticing that, again, thoughtful in mind, when we look at our ACT standards and we looked at what we put as our priorities, we're pretty closely aligned in terms of that. So we knew that we were not doing any disservice in the work that we were doing, but we were really thinking about it in terms of, if we want to be responsive to our student population, what does this look like? And so we really started to dig deep. And again, we said all the way along, like, we have 3 schools, they have three cultures to them. We have a Waukesha community that has a culture in and of itself. And to put honor behind all of that, we need to be thinking about all of those students together. And so what we ended up talking about is exactly how Nancy shared. Where do our students want to go, and what mode of learning best fits their need? And then we crosswalked it with our vision, which is moving into an integrated mathematics. And so I put this in here because this came out of research that we did that is in our math vision, which talks about integrated mathematics. And we have to be very intentional about what we mean by that. When we talk about integrated mathematics, we're talking about a style of mathematics that is used around the world with a few exceptions, United States and England being 2 of them, that looks at algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and analysis as a common thread, not as discrete topics taught in isolation from one another. So deconstructing silos and reconstructing how students actually learn the mathematics. And so that conversation was deep, and we were, as Dan Paczynski said, this was something that we committed to as a group. So we talked through this. This was very in-depth conversations. People put their hearts, minds, and souls out in front, and ultimately we kept our students at the focus, and we said, this is what we are committing to as a group. And coming back a month from now, asking for approval to move forward with this new scope and vision, knowing that what we are planning for is those middle parts. So after middle school, we have an integrated math 1 and math 2. I don't know if I think and then at that point, the students make the decision. So we're moving that decision point from being in middle school after their 6th grade year, in which case many students don't get a decision, it's a decision made for them, to now after 2 years of high school mathematics, they have a better sense of both who they are as mathematicians and a better sense of who they are as future adults, and saying, where do I want to go from there? Knowing that we have some students who like logarithms and want to do logarithms, we have a pathway that leads to our highest math options that we have in the district, because why wouldn't we have an option that maximizes what we offer to our students? And then we have a lot of options for students to flex in between there. So what you see here is kind of 3 pathways, should not be thought of as three separate decisions, but as mindsets of, I'm a student who could pick any of those 3 and then move vertically across those 3. We do have a pathway for students who really want to excel, and we have a pathway for students who really want those application pieces. And any of the names that are in there are names of current courses and kind of brainstorm names of potential courses that this team of teachers said, that would be kind of a cool course. So we have like industrial mathematics, but like we brainstorm, could we have construction geometry? And we had, yeah, I would love to teach a course like that. So what we want to do ultimately is expand the options for students to see themselves in mathematics that are dovetailed with the work that we do in ACP. So we align their post-secondary careers to what they have available to them, knowing that if we had unlimited resources, we would offer the world. But we're within the constraints of what we currently have. This is an option that maximizes those opportunities. So, is this me or is that you? Oh, it's still me. So, one of the questions that was asked last month and certainly was a discussion point within our group was, so what does higher ed think about this? This is just a small snapshot of emails that I've been getting. So what the common consensus is they fall into one of two camps. Either they already are seeing a lot of students come in with integrated mathematics as part of it, and they say, this is our crosswalk. For instance, in Madison, they look at it as algebra, geometry, advanced algebra, or an integrated sequence of courses. And they said the integrated sequence of courses pretty much aligns to what we're envisioning it of bringing these things together. Or they are like Marquette up there, yeah, you need 2 to 4 years of math. And that's what we're looking for. So no one has said, no school has reached out to me and said, we have concerns about this. They have all fallen into that we're either looking for an aggregate number of credits or we're looking for one of these two math sequences. And I think that is promising and hopefully alleviates or answers that question that the board had last year. So where are we?
So currently, once again, we've kind of decided on this framework, that decision point, what integrated 1, 2, and 3 would look like as we branch off. Once kids get through with integrated math 2, they have that decision and they branch off into where they like their future to lead them, right? In terms of mathematics and what they want right there. The next step for us, okay, is to continue to look at course resources. Is one of our biggest things, is our next meeting. But during that whole time, we're also going to be meeting with smaller working teams to determine what's going to support having students in the integrated model together. So talking about how can we accelerate students? You know, what if I'm a 7th grade student, or sorry, what if I'm a 9th grade student and I've already shown proficiency in all of the Math 1 skills? How do we do that? How do we make that opportunity open for students to do that? How do we build in support structures so our students who are not yet seeing themselves as mathematicians can see a pathway for them to be successful in mathematics? We're going to talk about earned honors and how do we give honors recognition to those students who have earned it. And then also, how do we best leverage the technology that we currently have in our district to meet all the needs that our kids have? So we have 4 working teams that are going to be meeting together. Some have already met, some will be just launching. And they're going to be determining criteria that we're going to be looking for as we look to leverage resources and curriculum from various places. Our goal is to narrow those curricular resources down to 2 or 3 within the next few months. And then hopefully by the end of the year, launch unit pilots. And what unit pilots would be is we'd look at particular units that remain in this year and we'd test those resources before coming back and asking for settling on one particular resource and then doing a full year of a pilot. So that's kind of where we're at. They're highlighted in red there. I think everybody's really excited for this work. We did not rush to get here, and I think that's what's made all the difference.
So with that, we open it up for the discussion portion.
Mr. Baumgart.
Just want to be clear on 1 or 2 aspects.
Yeah.
On the standards that you defined 200 plus standards or whatever it was, from what you said, none of them will be eliminated. They'll all be getting, and on the positive side, some that were getting too much maybe get a little bit less, but some that weren't getting any will get more. So you're going to flatten that out.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
okay. The other question deals with, maybe you can go back about 3 slides to the,
This?
yeah, that one. And I'm going to be clear in understanding this. So when you get to, I got to go. When you get to this column, we're probably in our junior year.
Typically, yep.
Typical situation. And then is this one multiple choice? I mean, you're going to pick X number of these?
Yep, correct.
So these 2 are not all going in here, but these 2 are all picking something out of this.
Yes.
And this one is, of course, the high levels, way up.
Yeah.
Well, I can't reach that high.
Correct. You absolutely have that correct.
That's a surprise.
What our intent is that we want students to develop themselves as mathematicians and see what is the natural pathway for them and not predict what that pathway is for them.
Right.
So we certainly want to highlight a couple of things. For instance, we as a group said, well, we currently offer Calc BC. So oftentimes people call it Calc 2. So is that still an end goal? And we said, yeah, there are students who that is an end goal. So that we wanted to, in a visual format, show the options that would be available without setting up the mindset that we're tracking or we're telling a student this is where they need to go. We want the students to know that everyone's going to get up through that second year at integrated math 2, and at that point they're making a decision point. They might have made that decision point in their own minds well before that, but this is where we're putting a decision point and saying from here forward you are choosing the adventure that you want for yourself. And we feel that at that second semester sophomore year is a much better place than that 6th grade year.
Would you put that in our packet, at least mine?
Absolutely.
Please, thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Roddy?
Yes, a couple questions, please. What year is the goal to implement this?
So we built this out with the idea that we would run a classroom pilot in each building next year. So not all incoming students next year, but for 21, 22. So that would be what we call implementation year. Next year would be a pilot year where we would pilot in each of our 3 high schools a classroom of that.
Okay, so my next question is, what does it look like to implement this? So that starts at 6th grade, but you said you're going to start this at the...
So yes, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, so we put middle school in there to kind of give the trajectory. It really starts when they transition into 9th grade. However, in this, because we have students in 8th grade who are taking algebra, we want to make a very clear communication through starting, if this gets approved, starting from approval through all of next year to say that this is work that's coming, so that in 21, 22 school year, we've had a lot of communication around that. One of our next steps is getting out to high school principals and their parent meetings to start rolling this communication out as well. We've already done this presentation last year at our district curriculum council and have gotten some feedback through that. We've done them in the buildings. Whenever we present, we're also emailing this out to principals and math teachers so that they have multiple opportunities for feedback. But we want to be very clear, we're not rushing this so that we don't want someone to feel gotcha type thing. We know that in 8th grade, there's going to be kids who are going to be in this. And so when we transition everyone in 9th grade, we also have to be mindful of those accelerate 8th grade students so that they are all as a cohort moving forward together. That's why we're planning a pilot with just the classroom set for next year. Does that make sense?
It does. No, I like what I see. I appreciate all the work and the details that's been put behind it, but I have to look at it from a parent perspective too and say, whoa, my kid's been through this and now all of a sudden you're going to change this, or you're going to start this in a year that they are already like in 10th grade and now I feel like they're behind. So
no, we would roll it forward in a cohort manner. So students who are currently in our system, they continue forward. We will phase this in over 3 years. It's not like we're going to take everything out and replace 3 years worth of math. It'll start with 2021 9th grade class and move forward that way.
think it's also worth noting too that the K-8 curriculum is already an integrated curriculum. So the transition to 8th grade and 9th grade should actually be easier than it currently is now by throwing them
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien.
Okay, so this is the type of work I like to see. I mean, we have staff in the trenches coming to us and presenting their way to provide a better experience and a better education for our kids in their core expertise level, which is, in this case, math. I like what I see up there. It's different than what I went through, obviously. I mean, it's a different way of approaching it, but I can tell you I'm pretty sure that what we have in our district today doesn't work for all students, right? I was invited by Mr. Baumgart to go to East, and it was a very good experience, Mr. Baumgart. Thank you for that invitation. But, we have credit deficient kids there that are taking Algebra 2. I don't get that. I mean, most likely that's not a course that they're looking or needing to have. It could be. I mean, it depends on the child. I think this would allow you to set a path for that child where they might not be credit deficient because they'd be getting credits and having success at the high school with courses that fit them in the math curriculum. So that's one of the things I like. I also think that we ought to be taking a quick look at what we're doing now, because I don't understand why we would be doing what we're doing there in that particular case. In general, what happens in the math curriculum, I'm an engineer. When we went to engineering school, the kids who made it in engineering school were the ones that could make it through math. There were kids that graduated their senior year that finished their last math course with a C, and they had to get a C in that last math course to get their 2.001 grade point average so they could get their degree. That's how important math is for the engineering side of the program for kids to have success in engineering. Waukesha has done a very good job of preparing kids in the past for that math curriculum that they see in the engineering programs, for those kids that are heading down that track. I think where we, because we're so focused on college prep and high-level stuff, where we hadn't been doing as much as giving all these nice, what we're going to be doing now, hopefully. I really think this is a good answer to providing kids options that better fit for where they want to be when they leave our system. So I'm excited about it. I'm really pleased you guys brought it forward. And I think it'll be great for our system to have something like this implemented over time.
Ms. Landich.
So I'm super excited. D squared plus N times AJ equals excellence. No, I just have to say how proud I am of this team, okay? We have done this work without coordinators, no release time anymore for any of that. We bring teachers together in a collaborative process, a tight curricular design process that they have vetted over a 2-year process. The work I continue to see by the teachers is amazing. I mean, you were all happy up here describing the process, but that day in 2 and 3, it was blood, sweat, and tears, right? So I'm super proud of the work. I appreciate the board for acknowledging that work. And Mr. O'Brien, to your point, this could be one example of a deep dive that we are continuing to do in the Department of Teaching and Learning. So thank you. Thank you.
Anything else from any other committee members?
No, that's good.
Thank you very much. Again, very talented people leading and guiding this, and we continue to look forward to hearing more information about it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Moving on to other business. Any other recommendations from future committee members for upcoming meetings? Mr. O'Brien.
Just a quick announcement. The Brewers are ahead 3-0 on the Nationals. I want everybody to know that. I do believe that, we had this presentation tonight that it wasn't supposed to be a discussion item. I don't want to see that fast tracked ahead of getting the information. I do think what Mr. Cook asked me about maybe going to Muskego and see that 10-year program they put in. I mean, obviously, we aren't going to do that overnight, and maybe it won't fit us, but at least knowing what they did. I think the fact that we have a data point that says they had 6 fewer instructional minutes and doing so much better kind of shoots the idea that we need more minutes. So, I mean, I do want to, I would like to see more of that before we see the next step. I want to see that deep dive process.
Okay.
So we'll begin reaching out to other school districts, their superintendents, and see what the process has been used in their districts towards organizational improvement, which is, I think, Mr. O'Brien, what you're getting to. How are they gathering the voice of board? How are they gathering the voice of parents?
Sure.
How are they capturing the voice of the teachers? How are they engaging the students in what that future planning looks like? Are they doing it on a 3-year basis? Are they doing it on a 5-year basis? How frequently are they coming back and reviewing? Jody and I will begin that work probably tomorrow with coming up with a fair survey.
Yeah, take some elementary educators with you to their elementary school that's doing so well, the one that's doing so well and one that's kind of at a par with us, which means it's not doing so well, that feeds into Lake Dunoon, and take some middle school teachers into Lake Dunoon. And I just want to see a staff engagement like we have on the math. I want to see that from the elementary and middle school staff rather than just saying we're changing minutes, which I'm not saying I'm against, but I want to know more than that.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
May I ask one question of the committee?
Yes,
quick?
go ahead.
For future meetings, as we discussed on field trips, would the committee also like to see the Department of Homeland Security travel advisories as they pertain to the countries that the students are
That'd
going
be great.
to?
That's a
they've got, I think it's a 4 or 5 year tier system, which means, it's essentially like all clear, normal conditions, all the way up to just a very direct, do not travel. A lot of European countries are at a level 2, level 3. A lot of the African countries are at a level 3, level 4. So we can make sure that that's
I
included.
think that would be important.
Yeah, very helpful. Anything else for future committee meetings? Okay, at this time, the meeting's adjourned. Our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be Tuesday, November 5th, here in the boardroom at Lindholm. I also want to thank all of our administrators and central office staff in our audience tonight, as well as any guests that we have. Thank you for being here tonight, and have a great evening.